there's some words that Jeremiah uses over and over again as he's sharing. So we're doing the book of Jeremiah tonight. Diana and I are sharing the teaching. I'm going to kind of give a historical background and a little bit of his calling, and then Diana will get up. So you have to choose if you want to be a part of these. So I'm looking for who wants to represent the sword, who wants to represent famine, and who wants to represent the plague. You want to be the plague, okay? So when we say plague, you raise your plague sign. Okay? Sword? Sword? Just have to raise a sign. And then famine. I know it's a hard picture, but this is reality here. And then we do have little ones. If anybody wants to be backup sword, I'm going to pass these down. People pick them up for sword, famine, and plague. The other posters we have, like here and over on this side, over here. These are some of our false idols that we have today, so that we can think about that. Just some of them. So we can think about that as we look at Jeremiah, and he's struggling with people who have many false idols and are not worshiping the Lord God, Yahweh alone. Okay, so we're going to start with a little story. Long ago, in a faraway land, there was a young boy named Jeremiah. Jeremiah was born in 645 BC in Anatoth, the territory of Benjamin, 3 miles northeast of Jerusalem. His father, Hilkiah, was a priest, and the boy was reared in a devout and quiet home. Jeremiah was well educated, and he was being groomed to be a priest just like his father. As the boy grew, he learned the ways of the Lord. At the age of 13, he had a powerful dream with God calling him into ministry. At the age of 18, he was called to follow the vocation of a prophet. Jeremiah was called to be a prophet to the nations. That sounds impressive, doesn't it? However, this meant Jeremiah must sacrifice his own life for God. God told him that his mouth would be used to deliver the words of God to the people. Sometimes people receive a calling of ministry, and they think their life might be great. In the case of Jeremiah, he was given forth his life to serve the Lord and nothing for himself. Jeremiah did not marry and had only one friend, Baruch. Baruch was a scribe himself, but he would go out on behalf of Jeremiah when Jeremiah was imprisoned. Baruch stuck by Jeremiah's side and was his one and only true friend. How did Jeremiah get called to be a prophet? The Lord put forth his hand and touched Jeremiah's mouth. And the Lord said to him, "Behold, I have put my words in your mouth." This took place in 627 BC when Josiah was king. Josiah was a good king, and he carried out religious reaffirmation to try to stamp out the idolatry, and restore the Temple of Jerusalem as the sanctuary of the nations. In 622 BC, a book of the law was discovered in the temple hiding in the walls. The book of the law was an early version of Deuteronomy. It was used by the good king Josiah to restore the temple and Judaism to honor the Lord. Oddly enough, as this restoration of holiness is going on, Jeremiah has little to say about this drive towards sanctity and organized worship. Jeremiah even states, the false pen scribes have made it into a lie. Jeremiah's faith was an intensely personal matter, and he knew that God would judge by what was in his heart. In the 18th year of Jeremiah's role of being a prophet, the good king, Josiah, was killed. Jeremiah was 36 years old at the time. After the good king died, the kingdom returned into religious and moral laxity with Egyptian influence. Jeremiah began to speak out in ways where he continually got in trouble with the authorities. Soon after Jehoiakim's reign, during this time, when this kingdom was sliding back in moral laxity, Jeremiah planted himself in the courtyard of the temple around a crowd of worshipers. He shook the people in the courtyard by saying, if you do not mend your ways, God will destroy the very sanctuary itself. Wow, does that sound familiar? Who else did that? He used the words of the Lord to tell the people that they could not go on sinning and worshiping a false god, and that they had to come to the temple and offer their sacrifice and be delivered. They couldn't go on having a way of life outside the temple and then come and do their sacrifice and be okay in the temple. The hearts and the actions of the people outside the temple had to match the heart and the actions inside the temple. Amen. Do we walk on one path? Do we present ourselves as one person? Jeremiah continued to declare to the people through the words of Yahweh that if they did not redeem their hearts, they would suffer sword, famine, plague. Jeremiah spent time in prison. Jeremiah was even put into a muddy cistern at one point before left to die. But the king ordered 4 of his servants to pull him up at the last minute. Jeremiah's life was spent declaring the words of Yahweh, which were very much a damnation to the people wherever he went. The temple and the whole city of Jerusalem was eventually destroyed and burnt as Yahweh had spoken through Jeremiah's mouth. The city, as well as the whole of Jerusalem and Judah, were taken captive to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar did fulfill God's promise, though, and he saved Jeremiah from being hurt and granted Jeremiah his freedom. Jeremiah stayed in the region for a while, but he eventually went off into Egypt, where he continued to prophesy sword, famine, plague. Jeremiah was a prophet for over 70 years, and he was one of the last great prophets of the world prior to Jesus Christ himself being born some 550 years later. Jeremiah declared a new covenant with people and spoke the promise of Yahweh, "You shall be my people, and I will be your God." Okay, I think we'll do our little funny part first before we start getting into some more serious parts. So we have a little song that has been created based on the fact that Jeremiah was a bullfrog, was actually one of my favorite songs when I was 3 or 4 years old. I remember sitting as a little girl in the garage by the washer or dryer, and I think I would sit in the corner kind of curled up and I'd listen to it. I don't know if I had my cookie batter with me that I was eating.